It's another Fabric Tip Friday. I want to touch base on fabric a little bit. I don't know how many of you really pay attention to different fabrics. At Airtech, we don't hide the fact that we don't make fabric. Our system since 1980 was as long as it's a certified fabric, and for a certified plane, we're legal to go on top of that. There's been other fabrics that's come and gone. The SX90, the different ones. Basically, we use Polyfiber's product that they have is the Synchronite or the Polyfiber, which is, as we know, is basically the same. It's just the way it's certified. Superflight, the way Molly has hers certified under her system. If there's another company comes up with putting their name, and let's be honest, they're putting it on the same type product, I'm going to just add that one. If it's legal, I'm going to add it to my drawing list. I'm not going to drop $50,000 in work or eligibility paperwork and everything to stamp Airtech on it. We've always just purchased it through these other companies and sold it through our company, or you can buy it from them or from Spruce or anywhere else. What I want to touch base on, if anybody has ever paid attention to fabrics, these PMA numbers that's stamped on them, like the Synchronite 102 is PMA 2.7 or 2.8 ounce per yard fabric, and it's a -5. The -5 has been around just about as long probably as I've owned Airtech, since about 2017 or 18, I think. Haven't paid much attention to it. I know I talked to a neighbor of mine, and I took him some fabric, and I know it was back when I first started by Airtech, and he goes, oh, they're up to a -5 now, up to a revision 5. I didn't think nothing of it. As long as it's legal, I'm fine with what they're doing. Well, it was brought to my attention to a customer the other day that said, he had an issue about the stretching, or he thought, and he said, man, you sent me fabric that feels different, feels like it has sort of a crunch to it versus the -5, or it feels different. I told him, I said, well, look at it and tell me. And sure enough, it was -4. So I know that over the last few months from Polyfiber, they had went back to a -4. I don't know what was going on. I didn't really question or whatever, but this guy had an issue with a lighter wing that he thought that he was getting some too hard of an effect on his shrinking, or something was going on. So I called the people that's doing this or selling this to me and get the lowdown on it. Well, since COVID, we had a lot of trouble with companies just not wanting to do their job, or whoever was doing it is gone now and someone else is involved. And they told me they had issues with the making of this, getting it certified quality. So they went to another mill, which went back a step to the -4. Same type of material, same number, warp and weave. It's the same product. It's basically Jif or peanut butter or Peter Pan peanut butter. It's the same product. It was just another mill that was making it. So by legal, they had to go back to the -4. But when they're making it, there's a sizing or whatever you want to call it that lubricates the machines or something, the way it's bonded together, that gave it a different feel. And lo and behold, it did shrink. We always shrink these to 350. We do them in phases. Well, this gentleman that approached me thought that there was a big change. And I talked next door with Brian, and he said, well, he goes, the fabric now feels, because we've been doing it for 30 years. He goes, the fabric now feels like it used to. And this guy has just opened his shop up in the last 5-6 years. So all he knew was the new -5. And this was what we were used to. And I did some of my own tests and everything. Well, lo and behold, they both shrink the same amount at 350. It's just the -4, be careful, at 250 or 275, it shrinks a larger percentage than this does at a lower heat. Then after you get a little higher, it don't shrink much more, and this continues to go up to the full strength. What you have to do, if you're doing like a chap wing or something, and you're doing the inner rib lacing, I would double that lacing. I would put 2 rows on the trailing edge. Brian always puts a row on that long trailing edge at the wingtip of a Champ. This new stuff, or I say new, it's back to the old. When you're shrinking it to about 250, I would maybe ease off of the full 350 in some places. Like the wingtip, it can pull that tip into your aileron. That's just ways that we have to deal with it. And I talked with Polyfiber, and they said they also recommend like antique planes or wood wing ribs. You don't have to lay this fabric out where it's all nice and kind of almost tight. You can actually let it drape between the ribs because it's going to shrink a large amount at a lower temperature. So it's not really a problem. It's just the different rate that it shrinks. Be careful around your bays on your ailerons. I usually always put a wood base and all that to keep the aileron from pulling in. So that's the only thing. I did my own test, and what I did was something with a 2x4 that does not shrink. I had the -5 and the -4, and I had them both about the same tightness, and I did them at 250. I laid a machinist rule across it. I laid a certain amount of weight, and I checked the deflection. Then I did the -4. And it did, at a lower temp, deflect more on the -5 than the -4, the newer stuff. So it did tighten earlier at a lower temp. But as I went all the way through 350, when I got to 350, this measurement is the same. There just is a deal, and it doesn't matter. This is the same strength. I've put weights on it and measured it. But if you come in close here on the -5, you know, our primer goes into the weave, and it's a urethane primer. And we've always in the past had guys go, well, the fabric sounds different when you paint polybrush on something. Well, it does, because you've put something in that, and it's not your build yet. This shrinked at this point, the -5, it just has a normal sound. The -4 is the same tightness, but we hear a different sound. It's just and I don't know really what causes that. The strength, the pull test, everything is the same. The super flat that we sell, it's acting more close to the -5 when you shrink it. So just be careful. It's the new. It's not the new. It's actually the old. The -4 is going to shrink sooner at a lower temp. So, and you know, guys doing the Super Cub or heavy duty stuff is not going to really make a difference. Brian next door has just did a Champ, to me, one of the most delicate, you know, dealing with those wood stringers and stuff, and he ain't had a bit of trouble. It is not pulled any. We did a fabric tip Friday not long ago. It didn't do any pulling too much on the stringers, you know, which is a way you do that. You have to go back and look at that video. The wing, he didn't have an issue or anything. But if you just go in at it and you shrink it wrong, you got an iron that's maybe a little hotter than you really think it is, it can pull a little bit harder. So just be careful on lightweight stuff. If it's not that, then just go ahead about your business and shrink it like you always did it.